Welcome to today's podcast, Business is You with Krista Morrissey. And Krista, like always, I like to have business owners themselves tell us more about what they do and anything that you're willing to share with us.
Excellent. Glad to be here, Jaime.
How did you get started?
I was in the corporate world for a lot of years, and I really always focused on building the team or the people first. And then they'll always tell you where the pain in the process is.
Right.
So I always say people, process, tools. That's what you focus on. And over the time, I was, unbeknownst to me, really helping to groom some leaders. And then at some point, people started coming to me and saying, I got feedback on my performance evaluation. I need to improve. I want to be promotable. And so I started coaching, even though there wasn't a coaching position. And I just loved helping people expand, become better, grow in any way they wanted, and saw the enthusiasm in them. So when I left corporate America, I knew I was going to start a business, and I went and got professionally certified in coaching. What I did not know, Jaime, is two things. One, what a fulfilling career this was going to be. Just unbelievable. And how my clients have just helped me grow tremendously. And then the second thing is how solidified my belief that it's an inside-out journey, and it can only be an inside-out journey, has been. Because I said the most beautiful thing I can do for clients, I ask questions from the outside, they answer them from the inside. They already have the answers.
Yeah.
I just walk that journey of getting them unstuck.
So beautiful. So one of the things that's on my mind right now is about leadership. And, we kind of talk about this being an inside out journey, but really how do you define leadership today? And what is it that maybe some people aren't aware of in terms of the leadership journey?
Yeah. So I talk about being a leader and leading yourself before I talk about leadership. And what I say to every leader, every executive that I work with is that every leader is rooted in a person, and every person is rooted in a life. Therefore, I coach the person, the human. And they take their new awareness, their growth, and they step into their role. If we did it the other way around, it wouldn't work. And so when it comes time that you are put in a position of leadership where you lead others, it only works if you have learned how to lead yourself first, which comes with a tremendous amount of self-awareness, acceptance, love, the ability to grow. And then leadership is about guiding those around you to be the best they can be and get the most out of them. And there's so many definitions out there.
Right.
They all kind of lead to a similar place, just using different words.
Is there anything that you've found to be true for, like, say, the position of leadership, leaders in a position of leadership without vulnerability, transparency, or maybe even just operating out of fear, like concern, worry?
Oh, absolute concern. It's just, it's an hourglass running out of time before they crumble, before they explode, before employees start leaving, or worse yet, they quit and stay.
Yeah, that's a big issue.
Yeah, we assume that once someone gets promoted, they don't need to grow anymore.
Right.
And it's the opposite. We need to keep them aware of their behaviors, of their blind spots. We need to keep them aware. Are you leading through others, and are you growing everyone around you?
Okay. So I am curious if you can help me find some of my blind spots as a leader. How do you start? How do you get started in coaching with a leader that's like, okay, I love your concepts. Where do we start?
Often in the business world, we start with some type of assessment because it's validated in science, in psychology, and you can argue it, but it's a moot point. So I leave it up to the company. I toss a couple out there for them.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we use a 360-degree feedback, and I like the type where I do the interviews because I can read nonverbals. I can ask questions. And that tells us, what do they think of you?
Hmm.
We can use Myers-Briggs, the Thomas Kilmann conflict mode. Um, I don't use emotional intelligence right away. That's a
Mm-hmm.
higher level one, but we can absolutely come back with emotional intelligence. And that's what I do with all leaders is say, all right, let's talk about where you are strong
Mm-hmm.
and what that means. Now let's talk about where you as a leader might inhibit processes or people around you
All right.
and what you
So
want to do with that growth.
straight up vulnerable in the Myers-Briggs, you mentioned that one. I am an ENTJ. What do I need to know?
Yeah. So there's four dichotomies, extrovert, introvert. So you're an extrovert. You get jazzed up from outer
Totally.
places. People think, yeah. Um, but you can be overbearing
Hmm.
to the introverts. Um, they don't engage, and so you just keep talking
Yep.
because like now you're nodding at me.
Yeah.
So if I'm an extrovert, I'm like, oh my gosh, she wants more.
Yes. Yes.
So we have to learn to make a statement, make a question, and go quiet.
Hmm.
And it's never, Jamie, about changing who you are. It's like a radio dial. When do you dial yourself up? When do you dial yourself down?
Hmm.
So then if we take the sensing and intuition dichotomy, that's how
Mm-hmm.
you take in information. And you said you're an N.
Yes.
So you're intuitive.
Yeah.
So a strong intuitive person might wake up this morning and go, oh, it's Wednesday, March 29th. Boom. That's the last time they're in today. They're out there looking at patterns and possibilities. They're curious.
Mm-hmm. I'm not
But
even sure I know what day it is most of the time. So I
yeah,
think you're right. I think you're
however,
onto something.
yeah, if you're leading a group of sensors who
Mm-hmm.
put things in order and they use the five senses, they look at you and think, can't she just be present today?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why?
The phone is ringing. Could you please answer it?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
why can't she be here? Why is she a dreamer?
Mm-hmm.
We need both.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have a group of sensors that you're leading, you need to turn the intuitive down a little bit till they get to know you. Then you can turn it back up
Mm.
because you, as intuitive, can take sensors to a place in this world they can't go on their own.
Mm.
And they can do the same for you.
Right. Right.
So then, if you look at the third dichotomy, thinking and feeling, it's how you make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And what did you say you
I'm a
are?
T.
Yeah, so you're a thinker. Oh, okay. So here's if you're a strong thinker, it's about truth and justice, right and wrong. And you've been in your head thinking for hours, days, weeks. And when you share, then you're sharing at the end of your story.
Mm.
And you want it done this way. You have done the if then, yes, no, black, white. And the feelers are like, wait a minute, Jamie, what about the people? How are they going to feel if we ask them to do this?
Mm-hmm.
You don't care. Let's go.
Mm. Feeling very seen and heard.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And it's beautiful. It's just a matter of you have both in you. We
Mm-hmm.
all have both dichotomies, but you have a preference, a go to.
Yeah.
And the thinker does not mean you don't have feeling. It just means you don't go to feeling first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And in the business world, I was a feeler. And when I was giving reports to the executive team, in the beginning, they were turned off.
Right.
And I finally said to my mentor, why don't you just give the reports? They're not listening. And he said, know thy audience.
Hmm.
And I went, huh. He said, you're leading with the heart. They're thinkers. So then I went in and I would give the report with the data and the analysis and the timelines and say, here's where we got two options
Yeah.
with all of this. Which option is appealing to you with where you want to go? They'd answer that. And I say, okay, now let's talk about the employees that we're going to ask to gather this data.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean anything to them. Therefore, I don't think they'll gather it. How do we turn it into something meaningful for them? Then we bring it back to the controller, let him do his magic and turn it into the analytics that you want.
Mm-hmm.
And then they listened. And I was like, huh, there
Wow.
is
Same
something.
people.
Same people.
You changed your communication style.
I did. I dialed down the feeler and dialed up the thinker and met them where they're at. And in that moment, I learned the power of leaders not coming in and asking all their direct reports to change,
Mm.
but them getting to know their direct reports, adjusting their style. And in doing that, you keep other leaders in their strength zone. You keep them in their gift zone, doing what they're powerful. And over time, those executives always knew I was going to bring in the heart, the feeler,
Right, right,
and they got to know me.
right. And
And
they
frankly,
accepted that part of you too. I mean, it wasn't that
they
they
did.
asked you to be different. It was that you met them where, wow, that's so powerful.
It is. And I watch a lot of companies when there's leader changes, and the ones that then excel,
Mm-hmm.
the leader comes in and says, let me get to know you, Jamie.
Mm-hmm.
What's been going on? What do you think?
Hmm.
You watch the companies who are doing well, they get a new leader and they tank. Most of the time, the leader has come in and said, okay, here's how I do business.
Mm-hmm.
And if he or she has 7 direct reports, they're making all 7 of them change to meet their style,
Hmm.
and it just ripples throughout the company.
So what is the last one? I don't think we talked about that in the ENTJ.
Judging and perceiving.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what the outer world sees when they look at you.
Hmm.
So you're a J?
Interesting. I am.
Yeah. So a judger has things in order, and they appear to be in order, and things are planned. They're decisive.
I do like
Where the
plans and
Yeah,
decisions.
where the P just lives. So for me,
Yeah.
I'm a J because you go out to our detached garage, the lawnmower is cleaned off, backed in, full
Mm-hmm.
of gas, ready for the next person.
I love it. My
It,
husband is a P. I'm not even sure the
uh,
lawnmower made it back in the garage. Just say.
well, yeah, that's the same. When people come over, they look at the garage. You know exactly what I put away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but my husband will take me places that I can't go on my own because of
Right.
his strengths.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Different styles of thinking, different styles of communication, just different styles of connecting.
right.
None of them, neither of them wrong.
Correct.
Different. Yeah.
It's how we get to know each other. First, how I understand myself, then how I understand you and I interacting. And I don't have a bias to any set of
Mm-hmm.
assessments. I'm pretty flexible. It's what you do with that information
Mm-hmm.
to bring awareness to the individual and help them grow.
Mm.
And to ask those they lead, what do you see as Jamie's blind spots?
Hmm. So let's dig into that a little bit. How do you, is the primary way that you find blind spots by asking those around the leader? Is there another way to find blind spots specifically with the leader?
Um, the quickest way I know how is to do the 360
Okay.
feedback assessment or sit and have a conversation. We recently did it with medical providers. We did an assimilation exercise where we asked the people around them questions and they sat and listened to the answers.
Hmm.
Or you can do the more private 360-degree feedback. You can pay for an assessment.
Mm-hmm. So what types of questions did you ask in that live version?
Yeah, so it's different for every group, but for this one, it was so I would say, all right, all of you, we're here to get feedback on Jamie White.
Mm-hmm.
The only way we're going to help Jamie is clear, candid feedback. There's no judgment, and we know all of it won't be accurate, but we're
Mm-hmm.
listening for patterns.
And the
So
leader
first,
and the leaders in the room or your
for the assimilation exercise, the leaders in the room, they
wow.
can't participate. They just listen.
Wow.
And we say, okay, what does Jamie do well?
Wow.
And then how does Jamie inhibit this team from performing at its peak?
Wow.
There might be questions around what does Jamie say or do that is interpreted as disrespectful?
Yeah. Yeah.
What would have to change in Jamie for you to continue to follow her? Then I always ask, what do you own in this situation with Jamie?
Right.
Because it's never all you.
Right.
And whatever the answers are, whether they're um, good answers, no answers, it tells me about the team.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, and
then,
then how comfortable they are opening up can show
Yes.
you whether or not they feel safe in the presence of the leader. So literally whether or not they're answering the questions doesn't even matter sometimes. I mean, it's giving you answers either way. Wow.
Right. And I'm really watching their nonverbals. And
Right.
I'm watching the leader's nonverbals. And then I say, if this was a center of excellence and you would follow Jaime no matter what is the reason you will follow her?
Wow.
And how does she behave in a way that says, I'll follow her to the end?
What are some of the answers that you expect or that you end up getting there?
So I don't ever expect answers because then
Okay.
that will taint how I listen.
Yeah.
They have run the gamut, Jaime, from I'm just going to give some short answers to I'm just going to let it all rip.
Hmm.
And sometimes I ask clarifying questions.
Right. Right.
But it just takes one person to want to be vulnerable and step into answering truthfully, and then the rest follow.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So then you end up finding even the natural leaders in the group, right? Whether they have a position of leadership because they're the ones that are kind of stepping up and sharing
Right.
vulnerably.
Yes. And I listen to the patterns in the words and the words they use. Are they giving feedback on Jaime because they care about her and they want this to work? Are they giving
Mm-hmm.
feedback on Jaime and they're daggers?
Mm-hmm.
And the big question for me is, what do you own in this scenario with Jaime?
Yeah.
And that's it. And I listen and wait for answers. And sometimes there's a lot of silence. And it tells me the level of self awareness. It tells me where do we need coaching? Where do we need group work?
Yeah. The power of the pause.
Yes. Yes.
So I used to be one of the people that was more in blame, coming from a place of I'm frustrated. They need to change. And um I'm glad that you weren't leading anything. No. in the company when I was in that place. It's like I can hear today I could hear differently the things that I was saying that would have been so obvious to somebody else that was not obvious to me. And it would have been very, very healthy to have somebody else that had more of a healthy perspective to be able to hear and see my blind spots.
Yeah. Well, and it's I, I've gotten a lot of compliments for my work, and I say, well, it's easy when you come in as a consultant and as
Mm-hmm.
a coach because you can call the baby ugly. You can be candid to the point. I can say things that internally they won't say to each other, or I can get them to be
Mm-hmm.
honest internally. Jaime, what was the tipping point for you?
That is a really good question. The tipping point for when I decided to no longer come from a place of blame, is that where you're kind
Yes.
of
Yes.
uh so I think it was a mix of personal, like physical pain, feeling exhaustion
Yes.
in my body and knowing that something needed to change. And then as I started to um give myself space to heal that physical pain that I didn't realize was, me out of alignment in other ways. Uh, then I started to engage more in this idea of leadership development and coaching and hired a coach that heard me saying things that I didn't know I was saying. And so it was that mix of, I don't think I did it with the motivation of I want to stop being frustrated and I want to stop blaming others. I think I did it from the motivation of I want to stop being exhausted.
Oh, yeah. And it is exhausting. Here's what I say to clients every day. First, you have a thought, then that thought triggers a feeling
Mm,
because you've told yourself a story, and that feeling will lodge itself somewhere in your body. And everything is energy. So that's energy. And if it's a negative thought, you have this negative energy. And so when we carry our feelings, we become a one person theater show because our
mm,
body acts out what we carry.
mm.
And if we just keep packing it away, it gets heavy.
Yeah.
And I've been there where you're just exhausted.
Hmm.
And then when you get exhausted, you become defensive. Your guards are up. You're looking, I don't have the mental, emotional, or physical capacity for anything else.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm looking for what's coming at me because I want to stop it.
Mm.
And we don't perform well when we're on the defense because everything is coming after us.
Hmm. You're really helping kind of bring me back to that place that I was in and just kind of create awareness and sit with that. Um, and I think the thing that I look back and, you know, recognize that I need to even forgive myself for is the way that others were impacted by the fact that I hadn't been um, taking care of myself enough to even know that I was the
Right.
problem.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
um, because my exhaustion and my pain then is spilling out into others, and
Right.
um,
Well,
others are
Jamie,
impacted.
let me tell you, I have done, I have gone back to people
Hmm.
because that's what I needed.
Hmm.
That's not always what they need. And it did not work out well with a few people
Hmm.
because they then felt the need to unload or they were upset that I brought it up again. And
Right.
so I've learned, how do I heal? How do I grow? And then how do I release or let go?
Right.
And then all we can really ask is, how do we continue to learn and become better?
Hmm.
Because I always say, in every pile of muck of life, there's a gift in there, or a nugget or something to learn from. But there's positive if we'll stop long enough and just take a look.
Hmm.
And it's that nugget, that gift that we need to carry forward and leave the situation behind and continue to grow.
That's beautiful.
It is a wonderful thing, and when I see individuals and even groups have that aha moment and then say, "All right, what do you want to do with this?" and listen to them say what they want to do, it's wonderful. Um, and again, my big excuse me, my big focus is I want to foster hope, get people unstuck to foster hope, because when we have hope, we are facing forward
Right.
and we see the possibility. And to me, hope fuels everything. It's what makes the world and people flourish. When we don't
That's
have
it.
hope, we're looking back, and it's negative when we look back.
When you led the group that I was in, you mentioned that about looking back versus looking forward and how you really can't do both at the same time. That was,
Right.
even though I probably quote unquote knew that, it was still, wait, what did she say? Can you say it again?
Yeah, so it is neurologically impossible to hold a negative thought and a positive thought simultaneously. You can't.
Hmm.
And it's neurologically impossible to hold a past thought and a present or future thought simultaneously. So, if I turn around and look at this wall and I completely square off to it, I can't see anything this way. And this is my future. And so the direction you face, that's where your energy goes.
Hmm.
Neurologically impossible to hold a negative thought and a positive thought simultaneously. And it is neurologically impossible to hold a past thought and a future thought simultaneously.
So, is there anything different or anything that you teach on or that you've learned about a present thought versus a future thought?
Um, I talk more about being present,
Mm-hmm.
so you know what's here in order to focus on where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not real big on goals, Jamie. I'm big on, what do you see out there? Your vision, your dream. And every day, did you, at minimum, stay right here, or did you take a step forward? Always looking out there.
Mm-hmm.
So if you and I were coaching and I'd say, Jamie, um, imagine the next version of you, or the version of you that you want.
Yeah.
And I'd have you visualize it. I go, okay, where is she? And you'll say, she's out there. I want to become that Jamie. Well, then that's what we focus on each session. How are you doing walking toward that Jamie?
Mm. So that's beautiful. So for me, this year is about becoming more of a speaker and being on stage. That's the vision.
Awesome.
Like I currently have a stage with podcasting, but it's different, right? And yes, over the last year, I've learned that I love being a podcast host. I get to ask a lot of questions. And I've also recognized that a growth opportunity for me is to be more of the guest, or to be even more vulnerable, is to be someone that can actually speak um, authentically without having somebody else on stage with me. And I can see that this is my growth opportunity. And yet I run into some invisible walls.
Wow, yeah. So have you ever visualized yourself, what you look like speaking on stage?
I have definitely tried. And what I mean by that is, just even thinking about small things like, what would I wear? What would it look like? Recently, I did visualize it, and I was able to work through some of the things that came up, some of the fears that came up. Like one of them was, because I love to be barefoot and I love to be in a dress, and I want to be authentic to me on stage. I don't want to,
Yes.
think, oh, well, this is what I should look like if I'm going to be on stage. And um it was a little bit hard to be barefoot, and, and like it's okay, right? Like accepting
Yes.
that, letting go of, what might some people think of how
Right.
I'm planning, how I want to show up. I mean, if I'm going to be a speaker, I want to be authentic to me. And the other thing that came up is like, I don't want to do tech. Like I see other people do presentations and they've got this or they've got that. They've got this tech, or they've got, you know, again, working through the shoulds is right now helping me really embrace saying, I'm already a speaker. This is the type of speaker
Right.
that I am.
Okay, that's where I was gonna go. You are already a speaker. Will
Right.
you truly step on stage as the true Jamie White?
Hmm. Yeah.
Because
It's
no one else
getting,
can do it like you.
yeah.
So go out there. There are people out there that need you. And Jamie, I have never truly fit in terms of apparel, in terms of style. But one thing I can guarantee you, what you see is what you get. And every day I show up Krista.
Right.
And it only took about 3 years. And I actually had women say to me, it is nice to see you being comfortable, being so casual. I wish I could be that.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
can't be anybody else. I can't put on the 3-inch stilettos and a dress and go
What?
on stage.
Yeah.
First, I'll probably get a nosebleed, and then, and then I couldn't stand, and I
Hmm.
wouldn't be comfortable.
There are fears that I know are based on the shoulds,
Right.
and just kind of breaking down each one of them and acknowledging, how am I called to show up on stage? And so for me, podcasting, it's very discussion style. And so I love that back and forth. I love to be curious. I like to ask questions. But then over the years, I'm looking back and I'm realizing, when I was on other stages, besides being a podcast host, um, if I was in a panel discussion, I actually tended to wish some of the other panel people would go away. so
Yeah.
so I'm like, there might be a little bit of a sign that I am actually
Yeah.
called to be on stage by
Right.
myself. Like, let's look at the facts.
Right. Yes.
The fact is, I have held a microphone before. I have, given a quote unquote organic speech, something from the heart for 3 to 5 minutes in the past in front of hundreds of people. I've already done it. But yet there was a piece of me that still didn't want to say I am a speaker. Like I'm still
Mm.
in that, that on that wobbly bridge between believing that I am a speaker and being able to see and really embody that, versus like the, why do I think I'm not? Why do I?
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah.
What's in the way of saying I'm a speaker?
Okay, so the next thing in the way is um, knowing my titles, my speaking titles, that they would be interesting to somebody, making sure that, again, they're in alignment with me. Let's see, what else is in the way of,
Well, so
yeah, go
Jamie,
ahead.
your speaking titles aren't what
Mm.
attract people. You
Mm.
are.
Oh, this is interesting.
Your title just gets them to say, Oh, who is that? Oh, it's Jamie. Oh, it's Jamie White. I'm going to that. Yeah.
Okay.
So I gotta be honest, your fear of my speaking titles,
Yeah.
you're kind of hiding behind that.
I'm hiding. You're right. I can feel
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I let go of the title, then it's like, well, what are they coming to see? What is it that I'm talking about? How do
Well,
I?
yeah. So it's not the title. What's the message?
Mm,
There's a message from Jamie White.
mm.
There's some knowledge, some wisdom that you have that you want to transfer to give to them. And they absorb it at the depth and breadth that they're ready.
Okay. So my mind immediately goes between this mix of ideas and concepts and message. So how do you help me get to the bottom of the message that I'm called to share?
Hmm. You tell me right now, what's your message that you're to share?
Yeah, this is hilarious because I am a good coach and I like to ask good questions inside Belief Crew. They've kind of found that the solution to the problem is to turn around and ask me the same question that I just asked them. So I
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like that just happened.
Okay, yeah.
Where you're like, wait, I
Yeah.
already know
Because
this.
in answering that question, you might scratch the surface on
Hmm.
your purpose. Why are you
Hmm.
here?
Hmm. So the first words that come to mind are leadership. I want to distract with some of the other things like how to do business operations, how to do, but technically they all fall under the healthy leadership for me. What does it take to be a healthy leader? And what does a healthy leader look like? I don't know. That's what's
Why do you
coming up.
why do you care?
Hmm. I care because I love business. I love organizations. I love people. And I once was a toxic leader without realizing it. And
Hmm.
I was also led by a not as healthy leader
Okay,
without,
so
for me, I was an unaware toxic leader.
so there it is. It's not the business.
Wow.
It's not leadership. It is that at one point you were a toxic leader.
Hmm.
It is your quest to help people not go down the path that you went down.
Wow.
Is that part of your quest?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Like, yeah.
what a powerful presentation you can give using yourself as an example.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, and
Wow.
yeah, how beautiful, because that's the drive. That's your purpose. It has you going toward that, Jamie, is to say, I want to give people what I didn't have,
Hmm.
or I want to make people aware
Hmm.
of what can do damage.
Right. Right. This is huge because I've been working on this for over a year, like subconsciously, consciously, and noodling and getting stuck in the idea of I need a title, I need a subject, I need a knowing that there's a story inside me that is part of the process without really um asking someone to ask me the questions that would bring it out, in this way that you
Yeah.
have. You're obviously very good at asking good
Yeah.
questions.
Well, it's storytelling. Tell your story, and it's not up here.
Hmm.
That year you've been noodling up here, your story's here,
Mm.
and you connect with people here. So they're going to connect first with who you are and why you're talking to them
Hmm.
before they're going to connect with anything you offer. You are the golden nugget in this situation.
Somehow I'm not crying and bawling right now. Like I feel the emotion, and yet I'm um not completely losing it. So that's pretty fun.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful for this awareness, and I'm really keying into the word unaware. I was unaware that I didn't have leadership skills, and that
Yeah.
I thought I thought I did without. ever going to any leadership development classes, without ever getting any
Right.
tools around it. I just thought that I was a nice enough person.
Yes.
I'm like, this is hard to,
Yeah.
to create awareness around right now.
We lead from what we know and what we've been
Mm-hmm.
taught.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what's coming up for me? How powerful for Jaime White talking about the awareness in the unaware.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you think about, you now look back,
Right.
and that's what I mean. There's a lesson in every part of our journey, the highs, the lows, if we'll take the time. And could you tell the story that you need to tell if you had not experienced that?
No, right. No.
No,
Mm-mm.
there'd be no power in the story that you're going to talk about.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I know that listeners can go back and, rewind in the podcast to hear this, if you don't remember it exactly. But I'm curious if you remember the question or questions that you asked me, or similar types of questions, to be able to pull out that piece from me. I'd love to hear that again if you.
All right, let's see if I remember them,
Yeah,
because I usually just go with the
I
flow.
love
But
it.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
something around, what are you feeling, and
Hmm.
what's inhibiting you? And you came up with things that weren't inhibiting you. They were kind of like your excuses or
Right.
your protector. And when I kind of took that away from you, then you have to talk about what's really here.
Mm.
What's raw. And you brought up worry and then fear. And as soon as you said fear, we were getting somewhere.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then we just keep unpacking at a deeper level. And the same for me. My energy healer and my coach take me where I can't go myself.
Mm.
You know.
I love that you just brought up that you work with an energy healer as well as a coach, because this is what we're really modeling in Believe Crew and merging, is this idea of healing and growth together, healing and coaching together,
Right.
personal development to get to leadership development. What are some of the things that come up for you when I share that?
Holistic.
Mm-hmm.
I say, for me, if I don't focus on, with myself and my clients, mind, body, spirit, emotions, we're not doing it right. Because if you wake up in the morning and you have a terrible backache,
Mm-hmm.
you got to figure out how to get out of bed. Then, just try showering with a painful back.
Right.
Then try getting dressed. And then you got to go to the store, and you'll drive around that parking lot 5 times until that person in the front spot moves. And that's just 100 less
Is,
steps you have to
is
take.
that the person that's been following me around in the parking
Yeah.
lot, waiting for me to back out of my
Right.
spot?
Yeah. But by the end of the day, you're drained.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. Mind, body, spirit, emotions. If one of them is out of alignment, you're out of alignment. And how in the world can I show up a good human and a good coach if I haven't taken care of myself?
Mm-hmm.
And so the self-care is the coach, the energy healer, uh, massage,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Because you're doing the
infrared,
body.
yeah,
Yeah.
infrared sauna, just in miles, hundreds and hundreds of miles in nature.
Mm-hmm. So when you're working with an energy healer and a coach, how do you see that merging together for you? How do they work together for you? And what are some of the differences?
Yes, so the energy healer, it you can't lay on the table with an energy healer and lie.
That's
You
funny.
cannot. You can't,
Right.
because your energy, everything's energy.
Right. Right.
And she'll go, "Really, Krista?
You're like, good one.
Would you like a chance to answer that again?"
Right. Right.
And it gets things flowing, and you get to release, and it's extremely non-judgmental, and
Mm-hmm.
what's here. And then that opens me up when I sit with my coach and they ask me the hard questions,
Mm-hmm.
to say, Jaime, you've heard me say, my role is very simple. I unconstipate the mind and the spirit so we can foster hope.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't move forward as a human if I've packed everything away. And so different methods of self-care work differently. And they give me different quiet time. Time with my coach is not quiet time, but it's
Right.
time for me to just let's go. on the table with massage, infrared sauna. It's just me.
Hmm.
Just me with me. And I think they all blend together. Some of my friends, and every now and then, I will do acupuncture.
Yeah, I love
I do
acupuncture.
chiropractic a
Yeah,
couple times a month.
yeah.
And my thought is one body, one life. Take care of this.
Hmm.
Show up, take care of yourself so you can show up fully every day. Because shame on me if I don't show up fully for
Hmm.
others.
So you had mentioned in the beginning of the podcast that you used to be in corporate. Were you exhausted when you were in corporate? I'm trying to remember if you said anything about that or if that was just
Oh,
me being exhausted.
no, no. I had talked about being exhausted. I was in corporate for 29 years, and 26 of the 29 were pretty good. I hung on 2 years too long.
Mm,
I had this thing about loyalty. And, I was hired by this company as a farmer and an athlete with a college degree. And I got to see the world. But I was exhausted, and I didn't realize till I left that all of Krista didn't get to show up every day. There was parts of me that had to be the role they wanted me to fill. I love now. I just get to be me every day. And there's people who want more of me. There's people who say that was fun.
hmm
I don't I don't know if I'll see her again. And then there's
hmm
those people who are like, no thanks. No thanks.
Yeah.
Well, Jamie, that's the same whether we show up ourselves or we fake it.
Right. Same
So
answers. Mm,
same answer. So just be beautifully you, and have your intent to do no harm. There are people out there who need you
mm.
because you're the only one that can give them what they need at a certain time in their life. So be there and be ready.
That's so beautiful. Is there anything else that you would love to share that's been left unsaid?
I would love to end the way I always do, that we as choosers have the right to choose. But once the choice is chosen, the choice controls the chooser.
Wow.
So choose wisely, because
Thank
that
you.
is the way your life will go. Thank you,
Thank
Jamie,
you.
for what you do.
Thank you so much. This was beautiful.